Cube roots. Cube roots are different than square roots. Here's how they're different. A cube root of a number is one of its three equal factors. Remember, when we had square roots, we had two factors that were equal. With a cube root, we have three factors that are equal. Let me explain. If I have the number 8, the cubed root of 8 would be 2. And here's why. Because 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8. So notice I have 1, 2, 3 factors, and they're all the same, and they multiply to equal 8. So cubed root of 8 equals 2. Notice that when I write the cubed root symbol, there's a big example here down on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. You simply draw a square root sign and put a 3 right in front of. So the 3 in front of the radical sign indicates a cubed root. All right. Another example would be the cubed root of, let's say, 64. So let me fix that mistake real quick. Try again. The cubed root, 3 there, of 64. Well, what can I multiply by itself 3 times to equal 64? Well, that would be 4 times 4 is 16 times 4 equals 64. So I know that the cubed root of 64 is 4 because I can multiply by itself 3 times to get 64. So hopefully we're starting to get the idea of what a cubed root is. Now, cubed roots are something that are hard to do in your head. So once again, this is where a calculator can come in very handy. Let's look at this first example. We have the cubed root of 27. So what times itself 3 times is going to equal 27? If you're very good with multiplication, you might be thinking something of a factor of 3. But if you were to use that square root, the cubed root function on your calculator, you will find that 3 times 3 times 3 equals 27. Therefore, the cubed root of 27 equals 3. Let's look at one more example. Now, here we have something interesting. When we were looking at square roots, we said anything with a negative sign under the radical sign is no real solution. It can't be done. And that's because with 2 factors, there's no way you can multiply something by itself and find a negative number. But cubed root is slightly different. Let's look at this little message here. While the square root of negative 16 is not a real number, the cubed root of negative 27 is a real number. And why? Because we can multiply a negative 3 and a negative 3 and a negative 3 by itself and come up with that answer of negative 27. So we are, when we're working with cube roots, able to have a negative number under the radical because we can multiply a negative factor 3 times and come up with a negative answer. So in this case, most of you would be familiar with 1,000 is simply 10 times 10 times 10. And in order for that to be negative, all of these would have to be negative. So a negative 10 times negative 10 would get me a positive 100. But then when I multiplied that by negative 10, I would end up with my negative 1,000. So remember that when working with cube roots, you may have a negative sign underneath the radical. At this time, I'd like you to go ahead and try the Gottets that go along with these 2 examples. Gottets H, I, and J in the middle of page 73.